Hi, everyone. I'm Miki Tsusaka, BCG's Chief Alumni Officer. I'm also a Senior Partner and Managing Director based in Tokyo. I'm very, very excited today to welcome my fifth BCG Alumni Leaders guest, Dr. Rohini Srivathsa. Rohini is the National Technology Officer at Microsoft India, and she was with BCG Mumbai from 2006 to 2010. I've been chatting with all of our alumni leaders about a variety of things, their career path, the advice they have for all of us, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and leading in the new reality. Given, however, the very challenging state of COVID-19 in India, I wonder, Rohini, if it's okay if we start with you, an understanding of what your role is at Microsoft and how you and your company are managing through this pandemic crisis.
Thanks, Miki. Thanks, first of all, for having me. As the National Technology Officer for Microsoft in India, my role is driving innovation and growth within the country. And I work at the country level with focus on topics that are of strategic importance, futuristic technologies with disruptive impact. Now, clearly, the times that we are in calls for a very different level of thinking. Given Microsoft has several thousand employees across 11 locations in India, there is much happening from globally within Microsoft ecosystem as well as within India. Um, at the global level, we have joined a global task force on pandemic response, are working with the US Chamber of Commerce to help the healthcare system in India, which is under tremendous stress with ventilators, with oxygen concentration devices. Microsoft employees have raised over $3 million for organizations working on the ground. Then we also see ourselves, Mickey, as really a digital first responder because the technology that we are able to bring forth has the ability for people to connect, such as Microsoft Teams. So we're making that available to all the commercial and government organizations. Given the nature of our employee base, I think the tremendous resources that have been mobilized, and they are not enough, but the extent of employee connection, the volunteer effort that is going into supporting people on health, mental well-being, logistic support is just tremendously inspiring, and it's a really humbling time in India today.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that with us and all that you're doing. I know that we in BCG India, as well as around the world, are mobilizing as well to do what we can. But if we can just imagine now for a bit, as we look forward, coming out of the pandemic, what are the industry trends that you're paying the most attention to survive and thrive in the decade to come?
Yes. In fact, if you think about the COVID-19 pandemic, which is we've been now more than a year into it,
Mm-hmm.
it's a huge digital accelerator, and we've not experienced anything of this nature. And the second thing it has taught us is the need for resilience, personally, at the organization level, at the country level. So if I think about tech trends, particularly the kind of area that I see evolve over the next few years, in fact, over the decade, I think the digital transformation will continue. And digital then drives data. So the first one would be say that data and artificial intelligence and algorithms that work on that data at scale will continue. And that will need ecosystems, platforms, and cloud will be an important enabler. So that's one. Second is that digitization across the board in the form of sensors, in the form of IoT devices, and cell phones, cameras that we see, that is bringing up the whole area of what we call ambient intelligence. And 5G, as you know, is an accelerator. So that whole area of intelligence that we expect in everything that we interact with, how we consume devices, is going to be an important second trend. The third trend that I would call out is this coalescing of the digital and physical worlds. I think we would see that transform in the way in which we engage with each other, with the world. And that brings up technologies like mixed reality, like augmented reality. So you'll see a lot of that happening in terms of the way we collaborate, how we do product design, how we conduct meetings, and many of the other activities. I think the thing I would call out, Mickey, is that beyond the tech trends I talked about, I think the challenges that we also need to pay attention to are pretty significant. And these three I would call out are, we are seeing huge inclusion challenges, which are digital inclusion that is leading to economic inclusion issues. We will need to pay attention to that because the divide that was earlier there on digital world, it's translating into economic divide. The second one, which is important, which we have to pay attention to, this whole area of sustainability and climate change. That will drive innovation. We'll need to drive innovation. So it may not be a tech trend, but I think it's a huge trend that we will need to pay attention. The third one I would call out is the workforce and skills of the future. And we know that they are evolving in ways that we still don't know the skills of the future that yet have to be invented. So I think that's the third trend I would call out. And these three are challenges, but I think they will coexist with the technology trends I spoke about.
Keeping on the theme of acceleration, what are your thoughts around how we can accelerate the investment and the progress we make around diversity, equity, and inclusion in organizations, do you think?
Yeah, very important question. Thank you, Miki. Uh, Look, I think organizations have to realize that diversity, inclusion, belonging, equity, these are everyone's priority. They are not a sideshow. And I think understanding the need to understand the why of these topics, right, and making them part of your DNA is critical. So even at the country level, right, there are enough studies from the United Nations, World Economic Forum, etc., that show that why women's participation is key to a country's economic growth. That why then every organization needs to define for themselves. The second one I would say is go beyond targets. Diversity cannot just be a target of numbers. But having said that, definitely keep some metrics to track your progress. And those metrics could be qualitative and quantitative, but there should be metrics to track progress. So that's the second one. But go beyond just number of people targets. That's a very deceptive metric. The third one is creating of role models and champions. Because at the end of the day, when leadership shows that they mean they're walking the talk and they have champions in the organization, I think there is a huge momentum that gets formed. And I'm seeing that around me and Microsoft India. And I think to me, this is a journey we have to do for our sons and daughters. There is no other way around it.
Indeed. I love how you started by saying this isn't a sideshow. That will stick with me. You've also talked about role models, and you are such a role model, I'm sure, for people in your organization and beyond. So, if I may, switch gears a little bit to talk about your personal journey. Looking back, what are some of the challenges you faced as a leader, and how have you overcome those over the years?
Yes, as a leader, I think, Mickey, we all go through those moments of truth. I think I have reinvented myself multiple times. I have challenged the status quo, taken a few bold bets,
Yes.
and all of that is going to give you some few scars. So I do have them, and I proudly wear them. I have been rejected. I have been sidestepped. My credibility has been questioned. All of those, multiple times, right? I've failed multiple times. I think the greatest strength that I have and which I keep holding on to is just my own ability to just get up after falling flat on my face, that personal resilience. And I think it comes from a few enduring principles. It is not just something you can just say. It's not words, right? It comes over a period of time with a few principles. I think the big ones that I have held close, Mickey, are purpose. When you are able to have your own purpose and you're able to drive others to see that purpose, you inspire others. And that allows you to think long term, think big picture, have that marathon attitude, not a sprint attitude, right? I think that holds you over the long run. The second is integrity. We talk about integrity, but it is a long haul. When you respect people, when you show consistency, fairness, accountability, it comes back and it pays back to you multiple fold. Right? You may have failures, but then many years later, people call back and say, Rohini, if you're starting something, I want to be a part of it. Right? So it really plays. And the third, in this, especially in today's world, Mickey, I think this real sense of compassion, this real sense of forgiveness, helping others, that holds. And I think to me, these sort of three areas of purpose, integrity, and empathy, I think they've really held me over a period of time. And yes, the journey continues, and I just feel that if I just hold on to these, I think pretty much anything, one can get through.
No, wonderful principles to stick by, whether it's battle scars or beauty marks you've gotten over the years. So, I guess related point to that, you didn't become an instant leader overnight. I suspect, as you said, there have been many bumps in the road, but also great progress in between, and you continue to do so. What isn't, though, if you think back around, the best piece of career advice that you've gotten, whether your time at BCG or beyond? It would be great if you can share that with the audience.
Sure. I think BCG played a really pivotal role in my career and learning journey. I'll tell you, I fell in love with BCG at Wharton. It was a long, drawn, real instant love affair. So I really had that. So anyway, I ended up joining BCG after I moved to India.
Mm.
If I look back, right, there's some two kinds of things. One, I think just fundamental skills around the area of data and analytics. And I've been in the space of data and AI for almost 3 decades now. I began this in my grad school world, working on neural networks in the early 90s, and then I started at Bell Labs, my R&D career, working on data science. So I joined BCG as a lateral hire, kind of late in my career by BCG standards, right? But to BCG's credit, they really invested in my skill building, and I was a natural problem solver. So I think one skill that I will call out I learned at BCG, where was really about that being hypothesis led, data driven, and outcome focused. And I call that out today when people ask me about what are the skills you need to be in the world of data and AI, right? That's a fundamental skill if you're looking to solve problems using data. Then I would talk about in slightly lighter note some priceless pieces of advice I received at BCG, and I won't divulge who said these to me, but he will know if he hears this interview. There were two, and recall them even now with a lot of fondness and gratitude. One was delivered in a very thoughtful and almost self-reflective manner pretty early on in my BCG career, and it was like most constraints are mostly in the mind. So that was one. It has stuck with me. I don't think the person Jelly was actually talking to me. I think he was talking mostly to himself, but it stuck with me. The other one, which is also a very interesting one, which was during an intense case we were working on when we had achieved an important breakthrough. And that was luck favors the brave. So I feel these two have really stuck with me many years later, and I sort of remember them most fondly.
That's wonderful. I'm going to try to figure out who those people were. Anyway, perhaps one more piece of advice for those that are watching. What advice would you have for those pursuing a career actually in technology? I think it is one of the hottest destinations in the world of professions. It is actually our number one set of destinations in terms of BCG alumni like yourselves. Any advice around careers in technology?
Yes, I would say, look, technology is becoming now, as you rightly said, pretty much central to every industry.
Yes.
Every company I speak to really thinks of them as a tech organization. It may be phrased as, digital or data or software, but, overall, there is a huge tech influence to every organization's business model and the way they are reinventing themselves. So I think from a perspective of somebody looking to enter the world of tech, and it may not even be the traditional tech sector. In fact, more people are getting hired with tech skills outside of the traditional tech sector. Right. So I think I would say the broader advice I would give is, invest in your own, what I would call tech intensity. And tech intensity is about capability, adoption, and trust. And I think what happens is that when you are, let's say, in a banking financial services industry, you have to understand how tech is changing your industry, how it's disrupting in your industry or domain. And therefore, your agility and adopting technology to innovate is a huge differentiator. So that's about adoption. If I talk about capability, your own tech skills, and I'm continuously investing in my own learning, so that's a second one that I would say has to be a continuous investment. And finally, look, tech is, while it's entering every walk of life, there's also an issue of trust. And there is an issue of trust, whether it's in the area of data, whether it's in the area of artificial intelligence. So your awareness and engagement on issues around security, privacy, data, ethics, responsible AI, these are also important as you look to really go deep into this sector. So broadly, I would say raise your own tech intensity. And I think that's a lifelong journey. So that would be my advice to anybody looking to be in the tech sector, or not even in the traditional tech sector, but overall.
Thank you, Rohini. Really, really, really helpful advice. We can just keep going on, but I think our time is just about up. So let me thank you once again for joining us. It was a pleasure chatting with you. It was a real pleasure listening to your words of wisdom. And I hope the audience has enjoyed this as much as I have. I hope all of you will join us for the next episode of BCG Alumni Leaders next month.